I'm Sister Kathy Arata, school sister of Notre Dame, currently stationed in South Sudan. Today is a special day for School Sisters of Notre Dame because it's the Eradication of Poverty Day, a UN-declared international day of observance. What I'd like to do during this video is just to share some quotes on poverty. But before I do that, I would like to tell you a story. Two or 3 months ago, I was in Kampala, the capital city of Uganda, and I saw the youngest beggar I ever saw on the streets of Kampala. As I turned the corner, there was this little girl who could not have been 3 years old, sitting on the curbstone, begging for money. I found out later that these children are brought in every day by bus from the countryside to beg. And as they're begging, the adults who brought them are hiding behind trees and cars, and if someone gives them the money, they run up and take the money. Now that's the story. Now I'd like to tell you a few things why the School Sisters of Notre Dame observe this day of eradication of poverty. The observance of the International Day of the Eradication of Poverty can be traced back to October 17th of 1987. On that day in Paris, 100,000 people gathered to honor the victims of poverty, violence, and war, and hunger. And since that time, individuals and organizations worldwide gather on that day, recommitting themselves to fighting poverty. Kofi Annan, when he was General Secretary of the United Nations, once said, "The campaign to make poverty history is a central moral challenge of our day. It cannot remain a task for the few, but it must be a calling for the many." We School Sisters of Notre Dame have committed ourselves to the eradication of poverty by joining many groups that are opposed and struggling to overcome poverty. I'd like to share 3 quotes with you. The first one is from Mater et Magistra, Pope John XXIII's encyclical. And this is what Pope John XXIII said in 1961. "The solidarity which binds humanity together as members of a common family makes it impossible for wealthy nations to look with indifference upon the hunger, misery, and poverty of other nations. The nations of the world are becoming more and more dependent on one another, and it will not be possible to preserve a lasting peace so long as glaring economic and social differences persist." Another quote I'd like to share because this is a very important quote. This was written by Pope John Paul II during the year of the Eucharist in 2004. And this is what he says: "Can we not make this year of the Eucharist an occasion for diocesan and parish communities to commit themselves in a particular way to responding with solicitude to one of the many forms of poverty present in our world today? I think, for example," says the Pope, "of the tragedy of hunger which plagues hundreds of millions of human beings. I think of the diseases which afflict developing countries and the loneliness of the elderly and the handicapped. These are evils," the Pope says, "which are present even in areas of immense wealth." And then the Pope goes on to say, "We cannot delude ourselves. By our mutual love, and in particular by concern for those in need, we will be recognized as true followers of Christ. This will be the criterion by which the authenticity of our Eucharistic celebrations are judged." That is a radical statement. What the Pope is saying, that the authenticity of the way we celebrate Eucharist will depend on how we take care of the poor in our midst. One more quote that all School Sisters of Notre Dame are familiar with is from You Are Sent, paragraph 17. This is what we say. Our living of gospel poverty as School Sisters of Notre Dame urges us to serve the poor. Making the concerns of the poor our own, we become painfully aware of the many who suffer privations stemming from the sinfulness of our world. In accord with church teaching and directives, we work actively, especially in our local situations, to eliminate the root causes of injustice in order to realize a world of peace, justice, and love. To confront injustice credibly requires that we ourselves act justly. We strive to live simply, to value human labor rightly, to respect the dignity of every person, witnessing that living these values is a possibility for humanity. Strengthened by Christ's grace and following His example, we are willing to suffer want, insult, oppression, and death for the sake of the kingdom. So on this International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, I invite each one of you to meditate, to think of the poverty that you are familiar with, and then do something. Thank you.